everyone, it's Tori, also known as Girlygrrlstyle, and today we're going to talk about a new Poshmark feature called Suggested Price. Yeah, I'm still not quite sure, but I want to talk about it today because I've had a lot of you already reaching out with feedback and questions and comments, and I'm in the same boat as you are. I'm testing it out, so I felt like this is the perfect chance to discuss a few things. So we're going to look at what it actually is, so how you get there, what it is, who it was actually created for. I think that's really important. Is it the buyer? Is it the seller? We're also going to look at some data. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull a bunch of our sold items in our modern closet, and I'm going to compare what the suggested price says we should have listed them for versus what they actually sold for. And then we'll wrap it up at the end with if I'm going to be using it going forward. So anyway, if you want to see this new feature in action and answer a lot of questions, you might have a lot more questions afterwards, but stick around. Hello, I'm an online reseller and small business owner, and I work hand in hand with my husband, partner, and best friend, Bill. And it's sunny today. I don't know if you can tell. I just saw this flash of light in my eyeballs. I am here in Spokane, Washington, and I have actually been reselling for like 30 years, only on Poshmark for about the last 3, but we have netted like $35,000 just selling on Poshmark, and that is our primary platform that we sell on. We have 2 different stores over on Poshmark. We have a modern contemporary store, and we also have a vintage store. So with this new feature, we're going to be focusing more on the modern items because, well, we'll talk about that, how suggested pricing and vintage don't really go hand in hand because vintage is a whole other pricing strategy upon itself. All right, well, let's start off by talking about what suggested pricing is. So I'll pop that right up here so you can follow along, whether you're on the app or if you are on your desktop. So I've been able to access it both ways. What it is it is a feature that allows you to, after you list the title and category and original price, so you have to put those 3 items in. Once you put those items in your listing, you're going to get a little thing here that says this is the suggested pricing from low to max that they have found with comparable items. Now, if you have been reselling for any given time, you know how to look for comps, and you know that finding accurate comps is a skill and art in and of itself. So one thing I will say is, as we go through this, when you click on the comps from the minimum to the maximum, you'll find that a lot of items that they include are not even relevant. The images don't match, the items don't match, so I'm not quite sure where they're getting all this data from, probably pulling from descriptions and those type of things, but it is based on solds. So they are actually looking at sold comps. Now with Poshmark, it is for the casual seller, right? They do not tout themselves as a big platform like eBay for those major resellers. So their suggested pricing, in my experience so far, is always super duper low, because if you're a reseller, you know that you're going to be able to get like $90 for this Rachel Parcell dress. Poshmark doesn't know that. They know that a couple of casual people sold it for like $25. So that's going to be the suggested price. You do not have to use a suggested price, thank goodness, because if that's the case, they would probably lose a ton of sellers. So I do want to use this Rachel Parcell example because that is exactly what I said. Bill listed this item. I got it very recently. Beautiful dress, by the way, if you can't tell. I didn't even have a chance to model it. It just, Bill put it up and it sold right away. But this dress, this was before suggested pricing came out. So we'll had to go back and click edit and then copy to be able to see the suggested pricing. But anyway, so when I looked it up, there were only 2 comps that came up, 2 items that came up. And yeah, Posh was actually suggesting that I list this item, or that Bill list this item for like, yeah, it was like $20 to $40 or something like that. And I mean, if we were a casual seller, we might have followed that advice. But the thing is, Bill listed that item over $100. We had a number of offers within like the first 2 days, and then we took an offer for $90. So from a seller perspective, from someone who is a business owner doing this to make a profit, am I going to use that suggested price? Not in that way, but maybe in other circumstances.
Okay, so one update I do want to point out is that it looks like the updates are in real time or pretty close to real time. And what I mean by that is when I looked at this yesterday, the comps were still super low on the suggested price, but you'll see here now the comps are $56 to $120. And that's because it's including the $90 that we sold this Rachel Parcell dress, as well as a couple of additional Rachel Parcell dress. That is the one that was there initially, as well as this white one. But look at all of these new additions. So that is great news. And now the suggested pricing is between $56 and $120. I would say that's actually more realistic because I think Bill actually did list that over $100 and we got that $90 offer. So good to know that it is constantly updating as items are sold.
So suggested price, use it. If it helps, great. Don't rely on that because it might actually not benefit you. And then who is this for? So suggested pricing, is it for the buyer or is it for the seller? Well, obviously this is a seller tool because a buyer actually will not be able to see this information. Thank goodness. Can you imagine if you had someone who was shopping on Poshmark and it came up with the suggested pricing? Again, I'm going to use the Rachel Parcell dress example, asking $100 for something when Posh said, oh, you should only sell it for $40, we would lose a buyer. So this is absolutely a seller tool. It is for casual sellers who want to get a quick comp check. Now, one other thing that came to mind as I was looking at this, if you are a primary seller on Poshmark, if that is your only platform, you still have to be mindful of comps on Poshmark. So while immediately I go to, oh, I'm not going to look at that, I'm not going to focus on it, I then start to think about, well, if I'm only on Poshmark and I'm not cross-listing to other platforms, I also have to compete with the other sellers that are out there. So there's the other feature that came out, which is the shipping discount. Still thinking about doing a video about that. I'm testing it out. Honestly, I haven't been having any success with it, so I feel like I don't really have much to say about that feature just yet. But it can be used for a casual seller, but also if you are primarily selling on Poshmark.
All right, so let's take a look at some recent solds in our modern closet and compare the suggested price with how much it actually sold for. And we're going to start with this pair of camper shoes. So in order to view suggested price after something is sold, you do have to click the copy listing feature, and then you can go down and see. So these sold for $20, but we had these for, like 300 days or something. And you'll see the suggested price, $19 to $41. And remember, they're pulling these suggested prices from the original price, which is interesting since this didn't have one. Also, colors aren't showing up, interesting. As well as the title. So let's click this and see what images show up. All right, so these are all Camper brand. Excellent. So that's a good thing. You'll see this pair sold for $15, this sold for $55. So again, comps are going to be kind of all over the place, but I don't see the specific item. We did sell those for $20. It falls right within the category, but that's also going to bring this category down, and we didn't see the exact same item. Let's take a look at another item that just sold, which has a really recognizable brand. So I'm looking at items that have a specific brand that I think will be easy to do a quick little comp check with suggested pricing. So Icebreaker, we have sold Icebreaker very quickly in the past. This item was no different. So in this case, it shows the suggested price of $22 to $48. And so if we click on it, we'll see Icebreaker plum dress. Just looking at these things, I'm like, that's all you put is your title? Icebreaker coral dress. So this is the same person that sold both of those for $30. Someone sold one for $13. There's ours right there in the mix at $35. So again, looking at suggested pricing based on what the suggested price, it's actually pretty accurate. And again, a couple of days ago when I was looking at this, it was so off. It was so wrong. But it also could be that it was new and it needed some time to get things together. So there's ours, $35, fell right within that line. Okay, I'm actually getting a little more excited about this. This Ryu dress I'm going to choose because it was super popular. As soon as Bill listed it, there was a lot of action on this. So I want to see what Posh has to say. So if we come down here, we have our suggested pricing of $12 to $25. Let's see. Ours actually sold for $30. So this is where being mindful of your own bottom line comes in handy, because retail was only $65. Bill almost got half of retail, which is phenomenal. And Bill's not doing shipping discounts. Bill's not giving free shipping or anything in our modern closet. So that is great, and it sold very quickly. We have that one sold for $19. Someone sold one for $10. And again, it's just the brands because I'm not seeing that same exact dress. Here's this one, $40. So those are the only items they have, just a few right there. So yeah, if we would have listened to the comps, we would have missed out on that sale. I want to look at this because Allbirds is another super popular brand. In fact, we have another pair listed right now that we just got. And I want to see what Posh is suggesting for this pair. The lighting for this pair of white sneakers was a little off, I know, but Bill was so happy that this sold for $40. So here you have your suggested price, your comps around $34 to $72. And here we go. So now this is actually super interesting because you can compare your like photos and listings and descriptions. And again, I'm looking at all of this right now from a seller perspective. So this new with tags paired sold for $65. This pair sold for $38. Another pair for $25, $40. Ours sold for $40. So there's a lot. I didn't see ours in here though. That's interesting. I don't see ours listed here. So they may just take the most relevant. Again, another super interesting thing to question. But we did sell within that price range. So that's good news. All right, so I thought it would make sense as well to take a look at some of our vintage pieces just so we can compare. And I'm actually not going to look at solds for this. I'm going to look at current listings. So this is one of my favorite listings that I have right now, and I want to see what the suggested price would be if I listed it today. So as I scroll through, this item was already listed. So the suggested price they have is between $26 to $57. I have mine priced at $35. As someone who is a vintage seller, I feel that that is completely within the vintage parameters. I'm also offering discounted shipping on this one, not free shipping, but discounted shipping. So let's take a look at the suggested price and see. And remember, they're pulling from the title. And so this one, okay, this one has does not have an original price because none of my vintage does. So that is an interesting piece. So if we click on this, we'll see vintage black and white psychedelic thing, $49, $30, $50. Oh, hey girl, I know you. So that is something that actually comes up with something very interesting. So from a shopping perspective, so even though, and again, when you think about Poshmark, it is definitely that social platform, casual sellers. If I am a seller and I'm listing my items and I'm going through looking at comps, maybe I'm going to find something that draws me to this other seller. So in this case, I could say, oh, I really like the way she styled this dress. Oh, but there's no link. Okay, so that would have been something kind of cool if you could actually link to this person, but then that as a seller would take them out of your store. So I guess that is why they didn't allow that. But it is interesting that you can see these other items here. So comp-wise, yep, I totally feel that for this vintage piece, yeah, that totally matches up what I am thinking. All right, so let's go. This is a modern item, so I want to take a look at this one. In fact, I just listed these, I think, today, but I want to compare. So Ms. Moo's Emily Rockabilly Leather Toe Pump. Again, modern item. There is the style name in here, which I think is going to help narrow it down. So let's take a look here. So as we scroll down, we have our suggested price between $15 and $32. So this is saying that I have listed over $40. And I am giving free shipping on this item. So for me, that still it's still going to fall within the suggested price range. So let's take a look here. This pair sold for $42. Now, I don't see that same Emily style in here. I see Ms. Moo's, yes, I see the brand, but I don't see an exact match. And one thing, now that we've gone through all of these, I see it only gives you like a handful of those listings, which is also super interesting. So yeah, so this one's still falling within the comps if you think about this suggested price right here.
All right, so suggested price on Poshmark when all is said and done. Is it a good tool that can help some sellers? Yes, I think 100% it is a great starting place. If you are like me and only sell on Poshmark, it could actually benefit you for those modern items because you'll be able to see, hopefully they're going to increase this algorithm so it'll bring up more of the items that are exact in nature or close enough that it could be a true comp. How is this going to benefit sellers? Well, they did add another feature for sellers to the actual listing. So when you go to the listing at the bottom, they're using the same, essentially the same, I think, code, but from a seller's perspective where they can find items that are similar in like color, size, or new tag. So there is that ability there. Because if it's easier for sellers to shop Poshmark, it'll be easier for buyers. If it's easier for buyers to shop Poshmark, it'll be easier for sellers to make money. And they are a business and they do want to make money. So yes, verdict, feature, am I going to use it? Yeah, I'll probably use it as I would use any tool. I'm not going to trust it. I'm not going to give it 100% of my energy, but I'm certainly going to use any tools that have been provided for me. And we'll see how that goes as this has been out longer. It hasn't even been out very long. I think it's been out for like a week. So they already are improving it as we go. Do I think Bill's going to use it? I don't know. That's a great question. So anyway, if you plan on using this feature or if you have questions that came up or if you've had a different experience, let us know in the comments. I always want to know others' point of view because I know there's a lot of differing opinions here on Poshmark and Poshmark features, but I would love to keep this conversation going. Also, like the video if you liked it and subscribe for future reseller related content. And until next time, everybody, see ya!